on, guys?
What's up?
What's up?
We live, baby.
We live.
So what's going on in the saltwater? What's going on in the saltwater? It's weird because I know in freshwater, gosh, that's loud. The clearer the water is, the less nutrients it has, and it's less likely to have plankton in it. And if it's less likely to have plankton in it, then it's less likely to have predatory fish that we like to fish for in it. So, like in saltwater, once you get out into the blue water, I guess none of the literally none of those fish out there actually feed on plankton. I mean, plankton has got to have light. So what are those fish feeding on? I guess every fish out there is carnivorous. Everything out there is carnivorous, even the bait fish.
From what I can tell, if it's a little smaller than you and you run across it, it's time to eat, or at least try to eat it. I guess it's it's more of an opportunistic deal than it would be in the lake. Pretty much every time you run across the fish in salt, if you pitch something at them, I'm surprised if they don't eat.
They're a lot more curious. They're a lot more likely to come up to your boat. You know, even if you're making noise, they want to find out what. Even the guys, the charter boat captains that have they'll say, you know, their engines that makes the perfect pitch or the perfect sound that actually draws fish to them. And you know, well, we do that on Lake Murray out the towers. I guess really, really deep water striper fishing. You know, a lot like noise works. We got the conch for catfish that they use over in Europe, and I've heard all kinds of stuff. I've heard guys actually taking empty water bottles and sticking it under the water and crinkling it to make noise. And then you got the whole school of thought of you know, you have to be quiet. You're gonna spook the fish. I guess it just depends.
That's the biggest fishing lie ever told.
Depends where you are.
Hang on, I'm moving. There's a quieter spot over here.
Yeah, I believe you definitely need to be quiet when you're fishing skinny water, but
yeah, I mean that's
over
one
deep
thing.
water.
Fishing tailing fish and stuff like that.
Yeah,
that's a little bit different story. But I'll tell you, last July, me and Kevin Blue were probably about 20 miles offshore out of Mexico Beach, and the wind was just right. There's a ton of weed patches blowing in all over on top of us, and I mean we were fishing weed patch after weed patch. Every time you pull up to one of these weed patches, thousands of tiny little fish, anything you can imagine, swim out from underneath the weed patch and get up underneath the boat. Bar jacks, almaco jacks, little mahi, everything.
They love cover, don't they?
Yeah, they won't cover.
Yeah. Anytime you're going offshore, if you see a milk jug floating, you better go fish it.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Any kind of cover, any kind of food.
Yeah.
Well,
there are guys down there in Destin. There's not a lot of grass, so they'll float big tarps on
any kind of fads.
Mm-hmm.
They're popular in Mexico Beach. They'll take the palm fronds and tie them together and sink them right at water level or just under water level. Some of them you can see, some of them you can't. And those always hold triple tail. One of the biggest game fish I've caught. 27, 28 inch triple tail, massive fish. Looks like a dinosaur.
Saltwater tilapia.
Saltwater tilapia. They fight like hell.
Well, I mean, tilapia are already saltwater, aren't they? Aren't they? Yeah.
I don't know.
I think so. I don't know. Maybe I'm.
I know a tilapia and a triple tail look very similar. If you put them.
They do.
Do the tilapia have the triple tails?
Yeah.
Oh,
Pretty.
Kinda. I mean, they look similar.
That dorsal fin's more of a ridge.
Mm-hmm.
all right. I'm gonna have to download a couple images of the tilapia and the triple tail now.
well, I'll tell you. I guess everybody knows. If you didn't see that post I put up today, I got my ass handed to me in Middle Tennessee actually for the fourth time. 2 trips last year, 2 trips this year. $4,000 later and 136-pound fish.
Didn't hit the easy button.
Hey, I just missed it, so I'm gonna go see if I can hit.
Why so much money? Why so much money?
Well, gas, dude, fuel. I've got a 220. I bet I spent $500.
Joe Biden.
Probably $600 and fuel in that boat. I mean, I run 40, or I probably run close to 70 miles yesterday trying to find a stinking fish.
I didn't even count the lithium batteries.
Yeah, they ain't even counting. Yeah, having to charge for lithium batteries and what I used on my depth finder. I mean, it's hard, and then when I do the math, how far I live from the coast.
Have you noticed it's been so extremely windy forever now?
Everything's late this year.
You think that's got anything to do with it? Because I know that the wind has a lot to do with the phytoplankton and the zooplankton and like getting things started for that spring bite, the longer days, but the wind kind of mixes the water up and
no rain.
Gets a lot of those nutrients.
No rain. If the wind's mixing the water up, the water's cloudier. There's not as much light reaching the depths. All that stuff survives off of light.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. I think that plays a big role. That's probably why the bite's been sucking.
Why it sucks?
Blame the wind.
It's stripers. That's why we chase them. When you got them figured out, they change their mind.
That is true, Scott. If they were easy, we wouldn't chase them, would we?
Nope.
Well, I don't know. Like I said, I just doing the math, and plus, it's something different. No, I'm not going to take my boat off 80 miles to catch a fish, but I will take it out 20 miles to 30 miles, something like that. I do have a couple of friends that fish out of Merle's Inlet. I can go out offshore with them if I want to, but yeah, I just want to do something different. One of the most exciting fish I thought to catch was a tarpon until I caught one, and then I hooked up with 2 spinner strokes and got smoked both times. So that was, and I know people call shark junk fish, and people, most people don't like to catch them. Shit, I love to catch them.
Yeah, I think they're cool, but I definitely think you need to put wahoo on your bucket list.
I've caught several, and I prefer not to hook up to them. Honestly, it's just it's a whip your ass fight with most of the bigger ones, and when you're done with something that size, you're done. Like, it's time to sit down, grab a sandwich.
Just to be clear, you're talking about a shark, right?
Yeah. The biggest one we've caught, 10 to 11 feet long, great hammerhead. I have no idea how much this fish weighed. I know its head was massive. It was almost half the size of Dennis's boat.
Yeah.
And for those of y'all that don't know, he's got a 23-foot Grady, and it was damn near half that size. When I was done with that fish, I was done. I didn't want fish.
I think that the best way to go about catching those giant, majestic beast sharks is to take turns with it. If you got a couple of guys with you, one guy fights him for half an hour, and then
it's the same with any 600,000, 700,000, 800,000 pound fish. Swordfish, marlin, big yellowfins, same thing.
Hey, Scott Perry,
what's up?
Tell us the story. What JR just said about switching the rods. Tell us the shark story. You sent me the video on YouTube.
Oh yeah, there was probably about 5 bull sharks coming under the boat, and then a hammerhead showed up, and my boat had an 8-foot beam, and I could see its head and tail on both sides when it swam under. And of course, Heather goes, "Hook it," and I'm like, "No."
Yeah.
So finally, I had like a pin 9/0 big reel. I threw out there and I hooked it, and nobody on the boat could drive a boat, so I was on anchor with probably a 10-foot tiger shark. And after 35 minutes, he found out he was hooked and pulled the hook, and I loved it. I was so glad he pulled the hook.
Yeah, that's the way I feel about it. I like to
heart.
see the line pop in that situation.
There comes a time when you got such a big fish that it just.
I think the problem is they're always a bycatch. I think that's why a lot of guys hate them. You're going out there for grouper, you're going out there for mahi.
The bycatch isn't necessarily the issue. It's when you snag a 20-pound or 30-pound grouper, or you snag a 20-pound red snapper that are so heavily regulated that you got to go around your asshole to your elbow to catch one. You get it halfway to the boat, and then you feel the line go tight, and then it goes limp.
A tax
You get half
man.
a fish or a fish head after you.
Saltwater tax.
The tax
That is-
man. Yeah.
That is the absolute worst thing, and I think
Right.
that's
Right.
where they really get the hate from.
Yeah.
You know what? I think a lot of the people, the shark thing is, I mean, they're easy to catch. I mean, you can go anywhere and
Easy,
throw
bud.
something dead on the bottom and catch a shark.
Now, wait a minute. Wait a minute.
Maybe
there
not
are-
the shark you want, but you will
Right.
catch a shark.
Now there's such a thing as trophy shark fishing.
Oh yeah, like makos and stuff. But
Well, no, even tigers. You know, I mean, listen. I know that you caught your little bitty tiger that you.
I mean, the thing was looking at me and ate. I mean, it's not very
Listen,
challenging.
There are tigers out there right now at the Frying Pan Tower.
I mean, I'm like, here's a hook, and he just grabs it off the side of the boat.
If a man wanted a state record, I feel like that would be the easiest way to go get a state record. You could go out to the Frying Pan Tower and you could catch a 13-foot, 1,300 pound tiger.
Anybody could.
And break the record.
Right?
You would break the record for tiger shark.
Whoop-dee.
I think it would be it's a lot
I'll pass.
cooler. It's
Y'all
a
can
lot
have that. That's
cooler
something you can put your name on.
if you actually like go out like targeting a big shark.
Yeah, I mean, there's some guy out of Hilton Head that targets big tiger sharks in the spring when they're spawn. I mean, it's cool.
Look at us when we're targeting striper and we get into gar hole and we're catching gar. We hate gar. We hate needle nose gar. They're garbage fish. We're trying to striper fish. But if you had a guy that loved gar, you have a guy that loved gar fishing, and
I wouldn't hang around.
You guys went out and you
Probably smells funny.
actually targeted gar. I mean, it would be fun.
Shane real likes gar fishing. Perry, you hung around Shane.
He likes him. That's alligator gar. Yeah.
A gar's a gar.
No.
What's the difference?
Well, needle nose gar don't get. They're not 7 foot, 200 pounds.
But a gar's a gar. A chicken's a chicken. You got different chickens. You got games.
I mean
roosters.
I don't know. There's a group you guys might want to check out, or some people that are watching might want to check out. It's called Land-Based Shark Fishing. I follow them on Facebook.
I'm in there.
It's interesting. It's not. I do it if we're at the beach. We don't get to run offshore. My son loves to fish. He just turned 4, and we'll throw out. We'll see if we can catch some sharks, but we're not going trophy shark fishing by any means.
Right.
It's not worth it to me.
I don't know. I like to target fish that are not easy to catch. That's why I don't catfish.
My question is though, why? They're a big fish.
It's a garbage fish.
The small ones, I can agree, yeah. But I mean, the big majestic, 10 plus foot, 600 plus pound.
But you get a shark to the boat, and it's just a shark. It ain't a 50-pound mahi or a 40-pound grouper.
Right. I think there's a difference in getting beat up by a fish like that and being able to knock it in the head and throw it in the boat and take it home and eat it, and getting your ass whipped by that fish and going, I didn't even want to catch you anyway, and taking the hook out and cutting the line and watching it swim off. I'd rather see a shark swim by the boat. I'd rather see it in a tank or when I'm, snorkeling or something like that.
Oh, they're awesome animals.
I don't care to see it on the other end of my line.
I want to say it's Black Tip H. It's a YouTube video. I know you guys have probably seen it. It's a very viral video of them out there. I want to say they're in Florida around a bridge. Normally where they would be catching like Goliath grouper and stuff. Well, they actually target.
That's a garbage fish too.
They target a hammerhead shark, and they catch this giant hammerhead shark like right around this bridge. And I mean, I think it's awesome.
Y'all call them what you want to. I think a spinner shark outrun a tarpon. It smoked me twice.
Now, I think that these guys, Wes, I think they're talking about. I don't think they're talking about. I think they'd love to catch a mako, right, Joseph, Scott?
Mako thresher, something like that. Yes. Yeah.
Something that's hard to get and hard to target and rare. Yeah.
That's different.
Well, I tell you,
the thing about it is you also catch those fish while you're trolling for mahi, while you're trolling for kings.
Right.
I went offshore with Drew Rankin a year and a half ago. 116-pound blue yellowfin tuna And I don't want no more of that. I don't want nothing like that's going to beat me up, dude.
But then why you want a shark? They beat you up worse than anything.
I mean, a 30-pound tuna will run you around.
Yeah. I mean, the tunas they got the really fast speed. They got the fork tail. Their hearts beat like 1,000,000 times per minute, and they go on. A shark, it may not it's not going to give you that like blistering run or peeling, dragging, smoking your drag, but it's
like
so heavy. It's so heavy. It's going to kick your butt, man.
I'll tell you a story. Less than a week ago, we were in the backwaters and I was fishing 10-pound braid, 20-pound leader on a 1/4-ounce jig head, and I hooked what I thought was a 30-inch red, screaming on my little ultralight. And I was on top of the world, and then I seen that 2.5-foot shark come up, and I was like,
Yep.
Yeah, that's a heartbreaker. Yeah, they're trash fish, that's for sure. But I do like targeting the giants. So.
If you had to choose, if you had to choose between salt and freshwater, what would you fish, Scott?
freshwater.
Joseph?
Salt every day.
JR?
In a like a make-believe world, like if the continental shelf was down here in Gaston County, like I could just go down like I'm putting in at Wiley, and I could just like I guess if I were in Hawaii,
they're so different. It's so different.
I would choose salt if
They
we
are.
were in Hawaii, but
it's a whole lot different.
being where we live, the proximity to the shelf, the Grand Strand area, you're looking at 80 miles, 90 miles to get to the shelf.
4-hour ride.
You're gonna have to drive to like Hatteras, Oregon Inlet.
But you can run off our shore and get Smoker Kings and have a blast.
I mean, yeah, you can.
20 miles and get
I mean,
lost.
there's a small window on the smokers. You're most likely gonna get snakes.
15-pound kingfish, pretty fun at first.
They are fun.
They run out of gas fast, but
just like Wes said, you can drive 3 hours and get to Charleston, 4.5 and get to Beaufort. I mean, by the time I get up at 4 o'clock
3.5
and get all, get fueled up, get bait and everything, I'm spending that much time before I get to Russell.
Yeah.
And then another thing,
if you got a reliable boat, I could see it. I mean, but Wes, you got like what do you got, a 2019 model Mercury on your boat?
No, yes, a 19 I think it's a 19. It had like 70 hours on it when I bought it.
Yeah, now see that. Yeah, I would go offshore fishing. Yeah, that 100%. But I got a 1998 Johnson 150 on my boat. I am not taking that damn thing offshore.
My thing to me, it's so different. Like, I love it both, but it's night and day what you're doing. I mean, you go offshore, you either fast trolling or down. I mean, it's just, I don't know. I like both of it.
I wish we could fish for striper the way we troll offshore instead of, down rodding or cut baiting or slow trolling.
You can.
Dude, if we could crank it up and run about 5 or 6 miles an hour with some teasers hanging off the back. Oh my God.
You don't think a striper can run 5 miles an hour?
Not a lake striper. Yeah. I mean, I think it can, but I don't think it's going to chase a bait that fast.
But you're going to be catching 3-pounders.
Yeah, I don't think because these striper that we have around here, they don't get fat and big because they've been running around little baits. Yeah, they'll wait on something the right size to come by before they even put any effort into it.
They're lazy.
I guess to me, it's about. I like chasing trophy fish. Not that I catch them, but I like chasing them. Yeah. Saltwater, there's very few trophy fish.
Amen. People ask me all the time, why do you get skunk so often, JR? Well, it's because I like going where the fish ain't. I go where the fish ain't. When
I like that too.
When fish are grouped together, schoolies. We call them schoolies. Mm-hmm. They're in a school. They're in a huge school, and as they get bigger, the school gets smaller. And they eventually get to where they're in like wolf packs. And then eventually they get to where they're just a rogue. They're just loners. They're just solo. They're kind of living in their own little ecosystem. And those are the fish I'm after. I don't give a crap about catching fish. That's one reason that guys like us that like to catch big fish, that's why we're zero, because we're not all the time going to where the fish are.
And saltwater is very expensive.
You know, Wes just got back from Tennessee, spent a fortune. So,
well, I know, but like if you went offshore, like for a weekend, I mean,
right.
that's.
I mean, you're looking at how many gallons do you have on your boat, Wes? What's your tank size?
82 or 84.
Okay, let's say gas is right now gas is say 380 a gallon. So let's say
unless you run out while you're in the ocean and you have to go to the marina like I did last week, I would pay $5.25 a gallon.
We spent a week offshore in a 30-foot well craft, and we spent about $700 in fuel.
Yeah, you're looking at $336 to fill that boat up, Wes.
I spent almost $400 and something filling it up a month ago.
So if you go offshore fishing, let's say you go 50 miles offshore and you troll all day and you come back, you're looking at,
it adds up quick.
Yeah, you might have a quarter tank left.
And then gear, and then then if you want to run, then you start ordering skirts and down planers,
and those things are extremely expensive. And I think you're going to catch bigger fish in freshwater. I mean, yes, you're going to have your big, 50+ pound wahoo, and you're going to have your big, your bull dolphin. You're going to have your smoker kings. You're going to have your big grouper. But all those things are seasonal. All those things you're not going to catch those fish all the time.
And if you're fast trolling 9 miles an hour in rough sea all day, don't take a shower when you get home. You'll be laying in the bottom of the damn.
Don't close your eyes either.
That takes a toll on you.
It does.
And it's.
I love it both. I can't pick one. If I could retire and move to the coast, I probably wouldn't freshwater fish. But right now, I love them.
And I feel like there's a reason we chase striper, even though we're up here now. You know what I mean?
Well,
there's
one of the most. It's one of the most hard. It's the toughest fish to understand, and
like this year, I talked to Chuck Tomlin.
Don't say a striper is easy to understand, JR. Don't even start.
Are we talking trophy stripers?
Yes, we ain't talking about going to Clark's Hill and loading the coolers 3-pounders.
All right. Well, hey, remember that next time you say something about catfish, because every single time y'all say something about catfish, it's about catfish.
I'll be right back.
Y'all know what kind of catfish I'm talking about.
I talked to Chuck Tomlin today, and we're talking about fishing, and and I think a few people do, a few people don't. Chuck, and I didn't know this till last year, as long as I've known him. Chuck is a marine biologist. He graduated from University of Miami. So he's very knowledgeable, of course, in the field of fishing, and 99% of what he chases is striped bass. Well, I was asking him, telling him what happened. He said, Wes, I seen your video yesterday. And he said, I wanted to comment on it.
And he could chase anything he wanted. He's got enough money.
Exactly. And, and he said, Wes, here's the deal. He said, well, you got a place like Tennessee. And he said, and you're fishing, and you're trying to go up there during the spawn, you're trying to get these fish before they spawn. He said, you've got such a narrow window. And he said, I know there's a lot of water up there. There's a lot of miles of river. But he said, you've still got just a narrow window when you can catch those fish, because the water can change so drastically because there's not that much of it compared to the ocean. He said, like where I fish, he said, I've got anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks of a window that I can get these fish pre-spawning, that I can catch these fish. He said, like up there in Tennessee, just like this year, he said, what was your window? It was less than a week, 2 weeks, and it was over.
A window for what, though?
To catch them before they spawn. Because we do it by every year, just like the first 2 years I went to Tennessee, them fish didn't start spawning out till the end of April, second week of May.
But they feed after they spawn.
Yeah,
I think what Wes is saying is the iron stays hot longer in salt.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I get that, but I think people give up on Tennessee when the spawn's over. I mean, I'm fine going there and catching 40-pounders.
No, but what I'm saying is, and then he said and then when me and Richie was up there 3 weeks ago, water was 47, 46. I think we found some 48-degree water. It's the warmest water I found. Fucking snowing, sleeting, raining, just miserable.
Yeah, it was a weird year.
Yeah, and then a week later, that water jumps over 10 degrees. Over 10 degrees in a week. And them fish just went ballistic. They just started spawning. Hell, I did a video. I bet I would say there was probably 50 or 60 huge striper. I seen two that was well over 50 pounds come up beside the boat like that boat wasn't even there. They wasn't even paying attention to the boat. They were spawning.
Well, the reason I was telling you 2 weeks later be on fire, like I fished Hartwell and Clarks Hill enough to know that when they spawn, they don't eat. Yeah. But when they spawn, they eat after they spawn. So, yeah, you're not going to catch a state record post-spawn, but you can go up there and have a blast and catch the hell out of them because they've been 2 weeks without eating after the spawn.
Yep.
But, when we go up there, we want to, of course, that's what we're talking. We're wanting to get them big fat fish,
Yeah, 60-pounder. Yeah.
And their bellies drooping.
Yeah.
But, at the end of the day, Cheyenne, I was talking to Cheyenne, last night. He said, Wes, that fish I caught was the laziest fucking fish I've ever caught in my life. No offense, JR. He said, I told Rocky, he said, I believe it's a damn catfish. He said that fish had no fight in her at all.
I catch lazy 60-pounders all day.
Yeah.
It's funny that
even the bigger striper that I've caught, and my personal best as far as striper goes, probably 35 pounds, and we don't weigh fish. We hold them up, take a picture of them, throw them back in the water. I don't like to keep them out of the water long. My biggest striper is probably 35 pounds. That was on Russell, and even that fish, after its first initial 1 or 2 runs, it was done. Yeah. It was done. The fight in it it wasn't as much as what a smaller striper or smaller hybrid has. It just wears itself out faster, I believe.
Yeah.
And after that, it's just winching it in.
Well, you got a 25-year-old jacked up testosterone male versus a 50-year-old man.
Yeah.
I mean, probably a 25-pound striper is probably one of the hardest fighting fish, 25 to 30.
Yeah, I believe that's probably right.
But I'd give 20 of them up to catch me a 60 and hold it up.
Yeah. I don't think people look at plankton enough. I mean, like, look at Chuck. You were talking about Chuck being a marine biologist. And when we went fishing in the bay, when we were catching these trophy stripers, a lot of them had sea lice on them.
Yeah.
And I learned something new. I did not realize that sea lice cannot live in fresh or brackish water. So if you catch a trophy striper out in Chesapeake Bay and it has sea lice, then it tells you that fish wasn't in the bay. That tells you that fish come from the ocean.
Yeah.
Is that different than what we have in the lakes?
Oh, well, it's in the plankton family. Talking about the sea lice.
I'm talking about the gill maggots.
Gill maggots or whatever.
Right. Yeah. Those are sea lice, and it is different because they're in the same they're in the plankton family, but I guess they're the saltwater version. Yeah. They can't survive in fresh or brackish water.
Well, does anything eat those sea lice? I mean, are they like a food chain for anything?
Everything eats everything. I guarantee so.
Well, when it comes to plankton, them being in the plankton family, phytoplankton is plankton from plants like algae, for example, and
photo
and your zooplankton.
Zooplankton, yeah.
Your zooplankton is plankton from animals. Like it's basically like mussel larvae and stuff. They actually feed on the phytoplankton. So that's why when you like dock lights have so much bait around them is because the bait fish they feed on plankton and they're up in there feeding on the phytoplankton, and the zooplankton is attracted to the light. So you get this like concentrated amount of plankton and bait fish, and it's just hard to compete with that, putting a light out in the middle of the water. You're never going to be able to draw in as much bait and as much of a food chain occurrence as a actual dock light that's been
I asked the hatchery one time why they didn't stock kiwi with striped bass. Because I mean, it's not really a great fishing lake; it's a party lake. And they told me the main thing is because there's not enough. It's not a fertile lake. It's a clear water lake.
It's a
Can't
clear
really
water lake.
support. It can't support the bait fish population it would take for striper population.
The plankton can't support them. Yeah,
That makes sense.
that makes sense.
I mean, there's a ton of huge herring in Jocassee, so I don't know.
Well, we all know how that goes.
When I first started, well, I've been striper fishing about a year or two, maybe. And first time I was going to striper fish at night. So, of course, we didn't do no good. So I went and tied up under a bridge. And I turned my depth finder back on, put a light out. I put a hydroglow light out, sat there for about 30 minutes, and turned my depth finder back on. I was just going to check the water temperature. And it just looked all fuzzy. It looked, just like totally, it didn't look like nothing like it should.
Right.
I turned it off, turned it back on, and it just had this green looking look to it. I mean, I don't know how to explain it.
That looks like it sounds like an algae bloom.
So I called Brig Hennessy. He answered the phone at 9 o'clock at night for me. And I told him what was going on. And he said, "Are you fishing now?"
A lot of phytoplankton.
I said, "Yeah." And he said, "You have a
plankton
light out?"
flared up.
He said, "You have a light out?" I said, "I sure do." He said, "That's plankton." He said, "Just turn it off till you move. You'll be fine." So
sometimes you'll actually experience that without a light. Sometimes, like in the summertime,
Once the sun goes down, the graph goes crazy. It's the plankton moving up.
Yeah.
So I learned something new that night.
You can have too much plankton. Too much phytoplankton, not enough zooplankton to feed on it. You end up having what they call algae blooms and like lakes that stratify in the summer. And you'll look at your graph and you'll just be all of this noise. Like normally you see the noise like around in the thermocline or whatever. It'll be like the entire water column will be nothing but noise. And when it's like that, you never catch anything. It's
been so thick before you could be in 20, 30, 40 feet of water in it, and the depth read 0 or a half a foot.
Yeah. Yeah, it gets
that's Lake Murray in January. Just go up to Black's Bridge or Black's fish camp up there.
Man, we went to Lake Murray this weekend, man. We didn't do worth crap. We didn't fish much at all, but
turn your man card in.
We weren't striper fishing. We were cat fishing.
I'm just messing with you there.
We
could have caught some stripers. Those are easy. We went way up in the little Saluda, and you could once we went up there, we anchored, and you could spit in the water beside the boat, and your spit would still be there 10 minutes later. No current at all. So
all my buddies at catfish between Dreer and the river split.
Yeah, I was up there last year, and it was around, I think it was in April, and a guy pulled a 70 out of
it's big ones, man.
Yeah, up the river there, and I was hoping there was going to be some current. We ended up coming back down. We fished like the mouth of the big and little Saluda, and we kind of trolled out from there toward Dreher. We fished like 2 or 3 hours. And yeah, nothing.
Well, I fished a tournament at Murray. I went pre-fished. That was back when I used Snapchat, and I took the jet boat way up the Saluda, the big Saluda.
I remember that. You were chasing ghosts.
Man, I caught the Thursday before the tournament, I caught 40 fish.
Wow.
And I had it all on Snapchat, sending it to Hovis and Patrick and Sumo. And then we put in that Saturday, and the current was it was like a 6 mile an hour current.
What?
And,
wow.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. And we went up the river. We had one blow up on a river herring, and that was the only bite all day. So I was telling Sumo, I'm like, we're just going to have to go through all these fish till we find the biggest ones, because I was catching I literally caught by myself 30 fish. The average fish
what I used to do,
6 pounds.
I'm kind of giving away one of my secrets here. I've never really told anybody this, but what I used to do when I striper fished is let's say I went to Lake Murray, and if I went to Lake Murray and I put a light out, and if I didn't have any plankton or bait fish around my light, within 45 minutes, I would not fish there. That is
See, I
not a
think
good place to
I
fish.
think 45 minutes. If there's no plankton or bait fish, I think you've given it too long at that point.
Right. Well, yeah. Actually, yeah, you're right. But I would stay longer just to make sure. But yeah, I would if there's no plankton in that area. That's why like a little bit of rain like kind of stimulates plankton growth, but too much rain will actually dilute it. So if you get like flooding stage, like an inch of water in a day, fishing's going to suck because unless you're catfishing in a lot of current, you're using baits where the catfish can utilize their scent. But I mean, other than that, fishing's going to suck. So you have to go or actually you just change your tactics. For me, if I were striper fishing, I would go shallow and I would get the stripers that were feeding on like brim and
I'll tell you
that up shallow.
a quick story. My first night tournament on Murray before they had the regulations, we had night tournaments.
Yeah.
And I bought 7 dozen herring. And we pulled up. I don't know if you know where Hollywood Point is on Murray, but it's these humps probably 2 miles from the towers. And we pulled up in about 60 foot.
I love fishing the humps on both sides, a couple miles up from the towers before you get to the island, Bob Island.
Lines in the water was 9 o'clock and it wasn't completely dark. And by 10 o'clock, we were down to 1 dozen herring.
Wow.
And 1 rod in the water. And we were catching them on cut herring, like the dead herring we had floating in the tank. I called a guy that's been fishing forever, Barry Taylor, and I said, man, I had 7 dozen herring and it's only an hour into the tournament and I'm out of bait.
Dang.
I
mean, that lake is slammed full of stripers.
What I'm thinking about this, Deidre was on the show last week, and I meant to ask Chuck about this. Now, I don't know if he was just kidding, but he acted like he was serious. But Deidre said that water temperature and moon phase does not play a part in striper spawning. He said
I don't think that's what he said.
He just said it was all about sunlight.
I think he said it
about
was
the duration of the amount of sunlight we have through the day. I think that's what triggers that.
I think it all works together. I think what he was saying, that's not the only factor.
It's not what?
It's not the only factor.
Yeah, I think he was saying that, those were factors, but the photo period in a day takes precedence.
That's the most important. I believe that.
You definitely got to tie in temperature with that as well.
But no matter what your weather is, them fish are going to spawn out.
Yeah. So do you think that night tournaments yield larger weigh-in results than daytime tournaments?
No. Absolutely opposite.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Now,
rarely we get a 20. Even in heyday when we had a lot of 20s, we rarely had a 20-pounder in a night tournament.
I think the best part about night fishing is getting a break from the heat of the day.
My favorite part was weighing in, going to bed. I hated it. No, right now
I usually go to sleep. I got a bean bag. I'll just put it in the boat and sleep.
The average weigh-in on a night tournament is way less.
Wow, that's surprising.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all think Hartwell's coming back? It seems like I'm seeing a few bigger fish caught than was 2 years ago.
Well, I didn't tell any of y'all, but that picture that I posted Saturday night was leaving out of Green Pond. We stayed out all night. We didn't catch a whole lot overnight, but Sunday morning was fire, and there was fish all over the lake. And you know how the past couple of years it seems like everything you pulled out looked skinny, elongated, didn't have much of a belly. We caught two that were pretty good, probably for Hartwell, 7 or 8 pounds, and they were fat. The color looked good. They were healthy, and a ton of dinks. And I tell y'all, I'm gonna have to leave in a minute. I got to go shut the restaurant down. But I'm gonna give y'all a hint. T14's on fire.
Man. So the gill maggots, the fish healthy, no gill maggots?
All over them.
I don't think, to me, they don't hurt the fish. I mean, as long as they don't kill the fish, I think what's helping Hartwell, one of the things is they had such a big fish kill that the bait populations exploded. I mean, them fish can go anywhere and eat now. I mean, they're going to put on the weight quick.
The bait population has exploded, and I think this last year we didn't get near as much rain as we have the few years before that. And I don't care what y'all say, a bunch of rain's going to mess everything up, from messing the water quality up to these idiots just dumping it out into Russell. And
Oh, the best fishing I've ever experienced was during them 4 years of the drought we had.
I believe so too. When the water was the lowest, when it was 13 feet down, I think that's absolutely the best fishing
Well, I tell you, I believe no rain in Tennessee is what messed the spawn up this year.
It did, no flow.
Yeah.
Them fish go a lot on flow too, you know.
All right, guys, I'm gonna roll. I appreciate y'all having me out tonight, and y'all
save me a plate. Hey, bring me some leftovers.
I would, but no.
Which restaurant where you at tonight, Joseph?
I mean, I took over this Anderson store. I'm down here now permanently. This is mine. So that's where I'm at. Y'all come holler at me.
That's kind of a long way to drive. I believe I'll stick with Slither River Grill.
I'll buy you lunch.
I'll come see you.
I'll see y'all later.
Bye.
Later.
Where'd
JR go? He gone.
He'll be back.
So, Wes, what's your plan? You got a plan, I know. You gonna saltwater fish?
Yeah.
Well, we can do some good stuff inshore with your boat.
You gonna take me?
Yeah.
We'll do it.
Let's do it. 3.5 hours away.
We'll do it.
No, I know some good spots. You want to catch like shark and chance at some bull reds later in the year.
Oh, I'd love it.
You don't have to go offshore.
Hey, let me ask you a question, Scott. Me and JR was talking about this today. I don't know. Did you see the video he did? And I'm sure somebody's probably already tried this or thought about it. JR did a video where he had his what do you call that thing, JR? You fly, everybody's flying around. Drone. His drone. Okay.
Yeah, I gave him shit about it.
I was thinking, like, suppose you're up in Chesapeake Bay, right?
Uh-huh.
You got a drone, and you could, and you're live. You could target those cobia instead of riding around. You know, you could use that drone and say, "Hey, there's one 3 o'clock, 100 feet away. Yeah. There's one 6 o'clock." Or wait a minute, I'm backwards. 6 o'clock.
It wouldn't be easy though.
It wouldn't be.
It wouldn't be easy.
Still don't think it'd be easy.
No, you're looking through that camera on your phone, and I mean, there's guys that fish off the beach that'll use the drone and fly out and drop bait on fish. But
let me ask you guys something. Temp breaks. You know, when it comes to saltwater fishing, offshore fishing, I used to subscribe to Roths, and I would
pay some money.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I would.
That's probably saltwater, one of the most important factors there is.
Yeah. Well, my cousin would pay for it, and we would get.
And what was this now? You subscribe to what?
Roths, ROFFS, and they would send you.
Tells you the ocean temperature and where the main temperature breaks are.
It would show you where all the temp breaks were, and you would go fish those temp breaks. You know, let's say like, you know, May is a really good time to go for like bull dolphin out of Lake Hatteras. Well, you could get it with Roths. They would send you a map showing you where all the temp breaks were. So you would just take off out there and you would just fish the temp breaks. I mean, it's that easy. Now, when it comes to freshwater, let's say Lake Hartwell.
Mudlines.
Yeah, well, our transducers, I don't think our transducers are like sensitive enough to like pick up temperature breaks. Like it would probably, if you were to go into water that was, you know, let's say a degree cooler, it would probably take a little bit for the transducer to actually send that to the grab. Wouldn't you think?
I don't think you don't have the tide pulling temperature. All you got is wind and release. To me, there's not really temperature. I mean, there's temperature breaks in the back of the creek. Like if you're in real cold water, you can get in the back of the creek. Mud lines are basically a temperature break. I mean, your muddy water is going to be warmer.
They're going to heat up quicker,
and they're going to hang on the mud. Like Clark's Hill, Little River, South Carolina Little River always has a crazy mud line in it.
Yeah.
Always holds fish in January. Mm-hmm. I don't think you don't have that. What's the word I'm thinking of? Gulf Stream that carries different temperature water up, where you have that hard break.
You got your like, your ice cold water from like Antarctica meeting your warmer waters from Cuba.
And I don't really think that 1 degree break is going to really, just kind of hold fish. I know in the back of creeks, it'll hold bait, it'll hold gizzards in the cold weather when it warms up, but I don't.
Yeah, it's crazy how those gizzards will be in the back of creeks, and if you'll notice, creeks are always shallow, and water the sun can penetrate literally everything as far as the topography of that creek. So there's algae growing on everything. So there's plankton like everywhere. So like even when the water is lacking all kinds of dissolved oxygen, there's still bait. There's still bait back there.
What's funny is some of the best, like when I talk like shallow water fishing, I'm talking 2-3 foot shallow water fishing.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the best days I had, there was no bait. There's no bait flipping. There's no bait on the screen. It's
right.
And that's another thing about stripers. Why are they back there? What are they doing?
Well, maybe they're feeding on brim.
Maybe. I'm not seeing. There's like no life.
Look at Tennessee striper fishing. The river. There's no plankton in the current, the moving water. There's no plankton in those rivers. So those fish up there, those trout they're not feeding on bait fish that feed on plankton. They're feeding on bugs, freshwater crustaceans. They're feeding on stuff that's like completely unrelated to plankton. So
listen, when y'all talking about this plankton, I remember when I had my home bait tank, Scott Perry sent me a link, and I bought this big old tub or like a canister, and it had a blue light in it, and that's all I needed. So I think I had a channel catfish in there. I had some crappie that I brought back from Greenwood. I'd actually fished that trip with Skipper, and I kept a couple of crappie alive, and there was something else, maybe a couple of brim. But anyway, so I put them fish in there, and I went and bought some trout. Put them trout in there, and I took all the trout out and went fishing. I went to Tennessee, stayed gone 4 days, and I come back. And my tank was literally green, looked like green ball. The whole tank. It was because it was a clear tank, just literally. And I called Scott and I said, "Listen," I said, "I don't know what the hell's happened to this damn tank. I'm fixing to have to change 750 gallons of water." And he said, "Why? Did you bait die?" And I said, "No." I said, "Bait's all right." I said, "The whole son of a bitch is green." I said, "I can't even see inside it." He said, "No, that's what you want." He said, "Don't clean the tank out. That's your bio."
Yeah, that's that biomaterial.
That's your algae growth. It ain't hurt nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So is that what y'all are talking about in the water?
No.
Right? Totally different.
Well, that's plant based.
Well,
that's what shad feed on. Gizzard shad.
Yeah. The shad, because you're it's like skipjack, for example, they're a carnivorous bait fish. They don't eat, they're not filter feeder. They don't eat plankton. Your blueback herring, they're a carnivorous bait fish. They don't eat plankton. But like
what can a blueback herring eat?
They eat other fish's eggs. They eat
They eat each other.
Yeah. They like gizzard shad. You're not going to catch those on bait. That's why you'll never see anybody throwing like a sabiki rig and catching gizzard shad unless you're just snagging them, because they're there feeding on plankton. That's why you can find them around lights, because
when I ran my bait tank, I told you about the UV light. It kills all the suspended algae, but it leaves anything on the walls that doesn't run through the filter. But I've seen gizzards just up on the wall, just feeding on the string. I call it string algae, long string algae that hangs on the walls.
Yeah.
I hate cloudy water, so I ran UV.
Now, Elwise, they're in the herring family, right?
That's a blueback, basically.
Yeah. It's a blueback with a black lining in its stomach. It's like the only difference.
Shane Howitz is on here. Shane Howitz, I believe he quit freshwater fishing altogether and went to salt.
He hit the easy button.
Yeah.
It's fun. Redfish are pretty similar to striper. They're kind of streamlined, shaped the same way as a striper, and they fight similar. They kind of
one thing about saltwater is, I ain't gonna say it's easy, but everything's hungry in the ocean.
Everything too.
You know, when you were talking about fluorocarbon, you definitely don't need fluorocarbon in the ocean because everything's going to eat.
But everything, what is it about saltwater fish? Everything in the ocean fights like it's no tomorrow.
Because there's something else going to want to eat his ass. Dolphins after that. Yeah, I mean,
it's tidal. I mean, those fish are growing up in current, a lot more current. They're living their entire life, and every 6 hours is changing direction. And I know that even just to something as small as like crappie fishing in the Lake Norman Reservoir, where there's very, very, very little current, the crappie in the Saluda River or the any crappie that are raised in current fight way, way, way harder. Stripers I'm sure are the same way.
Our South Carolina's kind of special. Our low country down there, the tide is the biggest tide there is in the United States, I think. And I mean, I got a 24-volt, 70-pound thrust trolling motor on my 18-foot flats boat. And when that tide's ripping, I can put it on 10 and can't even run half a mile an hour. I mean, it's ripping.
Yeah, I mean, the cat fishermen on the James River, they're having to use 16 ounces of weight you have to use 16 ounces just to keep your bait from getting swept.
Mike Bradford said easy button, and then he's laughing. He says, yes, you do need fluoro in the ocean. He said, tuna have better vision than you do. Fact.
I don't tuna fish. Tuna fish is for rich people and people that own garbage companies and concrete spraying companies.
Swimming pools.
The only tuna I get is in a can.
Scott, all you got to do is stop striper fishing. Just stop striper fishing.
I guarantee I'll never be able to stop striper fishing.
Then you can afford to go offshore fishing once or twice a year.
I'll be chasing that South Carolina 50 till I die.
That's right.
Yeah,
baby.
I'm not saying I'm gonna stop striper fishing. I just want to do something different too. It's just do something different.
Hey, I know something that you could do.
Shut up, JR. Hey, let me tell y'all what I figured out. I went ahead and spent $500 on some reels. So
new reels. Can I have your old ones?
No. Listen. Check this shit out now. 2-speed reels. I've heard about them. I always heard about it. Like, why does people need a 2-speed reels?
So what are the speeds?
Let me finish now.
Go ahead.
Grown people's talking here. All right. So, I threw a bait out there. I cut a skipjack. God, we did catch some big jacks. So I cut a skipjack, not quite in half. Hell, he probably weighed a pound. I chucked his big ass out there, and he sat out there for about 45 minutes. So I went, reeled it in to check it. And I had it in low gear. Well, and I didn't realize it, so I was winding it, bringing it back in. And I kept winding. I looked back here at Bobby. I said, shit, this son of a bitch just broke off.
You had it in Ambassador 7000 mode.
And he said, broke off. I said, you didn't hit that. And I said, hell, I don't know. I said, ain't nothing on the fucking end of it. He said, look at your rods bending. I said, well, ain't nothing on the end of it. And I kept winding. And half a chunk of skipjack in a 5-ounce weight. And it didn't feel like I was literally reeling in nothing. So I popped it back out, put it in high gear. And it was all I could do to wind that son of a bitch. So now I understand the theory behind low speed and high speed. And that just made my life a whole lot easier. So I just ordered 7 more of them motherfuckers.
Wow.
My life is fixing to get real easy when it comes to winding in a big fish because I'm going to low gear their ass all the way to the boat.
Heck yeah, bro.
Damn, Wes, you want the easy button catching them and the easy button reeling them in?
You damn.
Why don't you get electric reels?
I was thinking about that.
Don't tell him about them.
Hey, can I put a lithium battery on?
It'll blow them up. Damn, Wes is going green. He's going to get lithium battery reels.
But that was
back
amazing.
to what this show is supposed to be about, Wes. You're going to saltwater fish now, and you're going to target what?
maybe some wahoo, and like you said, the offshore kingfish, and then whatever you put us on when we go to Beaufort.
I love kingfish, and I mean it's a trash fish, but they're fun to catch.
Bull reds, Wes. You can hit those bull reds. You know, like Drew done it a couple years ago, like a year or two ago. Remember?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Those
I mean,
good.
3.5 hours from you can catch 30, 40-pound bull reds right there in Beaufort. You can catch cobia right now.
Really?
Yeah, May and June, cobia come in. I mean,
You ready?
You got that 2-speed reel?
Yeah.
No, I mean, you can do that all inshore. I mean, you don't have to go offshore. You can do it in the bays.
My biggest thing I'm gonna have to learn too, I guess, which I'm not gonna be doing nothing by myself for a while, but is learning the tides. You know, when I go out, what water I can run, or if the tide goes out, you know, where I need to be when it does go out.
Yeah.
Well, if you're going out, you want the tide coming in. You don't want to go out the jetties when the tide's going out because you're going to be for a bumpy ride.
All right.
But yeah, tide ain't nothing.
Unless you're on a kayak. You want to go with the tide when you're on a kayak.
Well, yeah, but if you're going with the tide and you got the waves and the wind coming in, I mean, it's all them videos you see of the jetties when them boats are, I mean, that's an outgoing tide. I mean,
yeah.
Well, me and Shane Howerton was in Yankee Town, and there was a spot he wanted to fish. He just had to fish it. So we did get over there and catch some redfish. And we come within inches of getting stuck out there for 6 hours till the tide changed again.
I got stuck last week.
So how long?
Well, I kind of motored off of it, but I was stuck pretty good. But the tide there goes, I mean, it's like 4 times a day in Beaufort. So you ain't usually not stuck very long, an hour or two.
So Beaufort's pretty laid back down there. It says like an old folks community.
It's laid back.
Hell, I'd fit right in down there.
Yeah, you kind of like a Geechee, a white Geechee.
Damn. I can't talk that French Creole.
No, you'd like it down there. It's laid back. It's like Carthage on the coast.
Well, guys, I got invited to go do a podcast with Big Cat Fever. Caleb Page messaged me last night and asked me would I be interested in coming up there and doing a podcast with him, and I was like, sure. So I guess I don't know if I'm going to go this week.
He didn't want me on.
I'm sure he would love to have you on, Scott. I'm sure he would love to have you on.
I bet he'd like to have me on there.
Damn. So are you pro staff?
Hey, you know what? I might be pro staff. Who knows?
Wow.
I mean, I'm pro staffing in the hat right now. So.
You're not going to be able to fish on Wes's boat.
Yes, I will.
Hey, I talked to Tony Caton the other day, and I told him, I said, listen, let me tell you something. I said, if y'all ever pro staff anybody, you need to put JR on it because he stands behind y'all 110%. I said, every one of our shows we do, he's got something to catch the fever, a hat, a hoodie.
I tell you, if I was a company, I wouldn't have me. I would have JR.
I think, Wes, that's probably had a lot to do with why he contacted me. I noticed I didn't know that you did that. But thank you, by the way. But you did say something I don't know, a week or two ago on a show. You said something. And it was on Facebook. Yeah, you mentioned me and Caleb was like well, you know, he's already with us or something like that. I thought that was cool, man. Yeah, that was good. That was sweet of you, bro. Thank you.
I would make a call, JR, but it wouldn't help you any.
I don't know. Yeah, those guys, they know y'all. They know.
Oh, I like Caleb. He's cool.
Oh yeah, they know who y'all are. They know what y'all are all about. They know y'all good peoples.
Caleb's on the chain gang.
He is. Yes. We might have to change that.
And he has a sweatshirt.
If I'm going to be pro staff, we might have to get Caleb and Tony off the chain gang. They can't be seeing me in there acting like that.
Oh,
I can't picture Tony. I can't picture Tony Caton on the chain gang.
He ain't, but I think Caleb is.
So
He got a sense of humor.
Yeah,
I just can't do it publicly because it's bad for business.
That's right. That's right. Well, fellas, it's 9:00. It's been a good show. Thanks for stopping in, Scott. It's been a while, dude.
Man.
You kind of cold shouldered us there for a little bit.
I'm kind of ghost every once in a while.
Yeah.
Hey, JR, when I ask him, does he want to be on the show? One thing he says, what you going to talk about?
Hey, can we see?
Topic to get him on here.
Can we see the haircut, JR? Did it grow back yet? Or you still look like Drew Rankin?
I mean, yeah, it doesn't look that bad. I mean, it's.
Yeah. I see you still keeping the comb over. When are you gonna get rid of it?
The comb over, dude. Stop it! You're going to give me a complex, man.
Hey,
it doesn't look like. Does it look like a comb over? Come on, no.
D.L. Hughley said a white man can take one hair 6 inches long, put his whole forehead up.
I've seen it happen. Yeah,
I gave up.
Hey, there's nothing wrong. Yeah, shave it. Yeah. I got hair. I mean, it's not the greatest hair, but yeah, I got some hair.
So put in a good word for me with Caleb.
Yeah, I would. You want to drive the.
Tell him I'm going to change my ways, and I'm looking for a pro staff deal.
Hey, I'll tell you what. If he'll let me do a podcast, he'll let anybody do it.
Tell him Shad Shack dumped me.
Hey, I did find out the other day somebody said Hovis was going to go back in business making bait tanks.
I wish he would.
Well, I'll tell you, I do too, because if he does, I'm buying about $500,000 worth of stock in flex tape. And I'm going to come up and buy me a new boat.
I think he's going to figure that out. I mean, he's gotten, my God, Shad Shack has gotten criticized, I think, more than any other company, over the welds breaking. Big Cat Fever, we were just talking about them. They've gotten crap for things that have went wrong with their products, but they've improved. And I think that's so like complaints and stuff are great because it enables a company to improve.
I got a 75 gallon from the first year.
When Chris comes back out, his tanks are not going to leak. Watch what I tell you.
I think Chris is too much like me. He ain't gonna.
That's why he bought that building, Scott. That's why he bought that building. That's why he got that garage door.
He bought that building because Dory put his ass out of the house every now and then.
I remember I talked to Chris when he first got in the chain gang, and besides his own tanks, I guess I got the first Shad Shack, 100 gallon.
Yeah.
And then I got the 75, so mine have been perfect. But
yeah, how much did you pay full price for them things?
Pro staff, baby. I had a 10% discount.
Oh, you only got 10% discount?
No, he did me right on both of them. Let's just say that.
Okay, yeah. He ain't offered me no kind of deal.
Well, you're JR. Nobody should offer you. Caleb, if you're listening. They're playing rap music over here in the sea art. My ass is going that way.
that video got like over 1,000 hits.
My friends love that. Like Scott Perry is like, I don't know why, but they love Scott Perry. I'm like, why do y'all like Scott Perry?
Not to love, JR.
They're like, okay, you went down there and fished with Scott Perry? Really? You fished with Scott Perry? I'm like, yeah. Like, wow, man, he fished with Scott Perry. Like,
I don't get it either.
They worship you, bro. Like, what the hell?
That's retarded. That's retarded to worship me.
Like they're watching videos. You're like your video, like out there on the boat. I showed you the video where we're out there watching you. Like that wasn't my idea. That was them. Our other friend, we had this other friend that we haven't seen in years. He was like, man, you got to see this dude, Scott Perry. You got to see him. He made this video. It's so funny. He's making fun of JR. Like, oh my God.
Hell, he was making fun of me too.
Yeah.
What was that? How he said? He said,
Wesley
effing Rose.
You don't want these hands.
What did you say, Scott? You said something. You said something, and then you ducked. What was it? That's where I busted out laughing.
I said he better not bring his ass over here. I'll show him these hands.
About that time you ducked. You said, "Oop."
All right, guys. Hey, good night. Thanks for coming by, everybody. We'll see you next week on Real Fisherman. Night, Wes.
Peace.
Night,
All right,
Scott.
y'all.
Good night, y'all.
See you.